Dollar. Dirt and money, no soul. Had to go and get it, ain't no time to kick it. Got a stack and flip for my foes. Dollar. Please tell me you can hear me. Don't turn your back and don't neglect me. Just let me know if you need me. Dollar. Let me watch out for my partners. Keep my money long, get my team strong. Let me run away from my problems.
Yup, what's good, original crew, man? We're back today, man. Today's visual, we got a Mr. Ballen. Cause we fly high, no lie, and you know it. She don't never want to say it. Y'all said in the comments, man. Y'all know, man. Yeah. She ain't with the cool kids. She ain't at the cool kids table, man.
Ain't at the cool kids table, huh?
Today's video, real images with frightening backstories. These gave me 3 weeks of nightmares.
3 weeks.
Man. Want me to tell you how you get over that?
What?
Put on a cartoon, man. Go to sleep.
I
swear, bro. Nope. I'm telling you, you put on something funny and go to sleep, you good. You good. Put on something funny, some childish, some very most so push you back into your youthful.
I can't watch stuff like that going to sleep. I tried. And you know, it had like the background, like one of the shows I tried.
You got it
like
up too loud.
No, but it had like the background, don't you know, like the pre-recorded crowd laugh.
Yeah.
I said, oh, this too cheerful for me. I gotta put something on a little dark.
See me, I told you it's a couple like Flubber. I can go to sleep to Flubber,
okay.
or I can go to sleep to especially during Christmas.
Yeah.
Like all the Christmas movies,
yeah,
I'll put them joints on, just some calming, some soothing.
That's cool.
And I go to sleep to it.
Yeah.
But hey, with that being said, before we get into it, make sure you check out the links in the description box
down below.
You already know where to go if you want to first part. You gotta do it. Check out down below. Also, if you enjoyed today's visuals,
knocking it with a thumbs up.
I'm stumbling, bro. I don't know what it is. Also, if you're new to the channel, haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Join the family, join the fun, man. We do be lit over here. But also, I'll say this. Also, the reason why I can watch certain things, because I've already seen it 1,000 times. So me putting it on, it's just like, all right, just soothing.
See, we two different people. Because I'll sit there and still watch, even though I've seen it 100 times.
But let's go. Let's check it out. Hey, let's see what it's about, man.
Yeah, please.
Today, I'm going to tell you 3 stories, and at the end of each of them, I'm going to show you the haunting photo or photos that are famously associated with them. But before we get into those stories, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right place, because that's all we do, and we upload once a week. So if that's of interest to you, the next time you're at the Like Button's house, please secretly sneak into their fridge and replace all of their vanilla ice cream with mashed potatoes. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. Okay, let's get into today's stories. At 10 p.m. on January 31st, 2012, a 23-year-old man named Chen Rongyu walked into an internet cafe in New Taipei City, Taiwan. The cafe had a front counter where a cashier would check you in and sell you snacks and drinks. And then from where he was looking, behind the cashier were all these tables, these long rows of tables with different computer stations at them. And there was at least about 30 people already sitting behind each of these terminals, fully engrossed in whatever game or whatever they were doing on the internet. And not one of these people even looked up when Chen walked inside. I mean, nobody was interested in Chen. But for Chen, that was sort of part of the allure of this cafe. He got to, sit down and play his game and be totally left alone. And so Chen walked up to the counter and paid for some time. He also bought a soda, and then he walked around back. He found an empty computer, sat down, and immediately fired up his favorite game, League of Legends. League of Legends is a multiplayer online battle arena game that's extremely popular all over the world. And Chen took this game very seriously. He routinely would spend 8-hour-long marathon sessions at this internet cafe just playing League of Legends to try to level up and move up in the ranking system. And so today, that's what Chen was going to do. And so after the game was booted up, he immediately locked in and he was in his first battle. And then before long, hours had gone by and he hadn't even gotten up. And then eventually, a couple times he got up to get a soda refill and to get a snack. But I mean, he basically just all night gamed, just nonstop. periodically stopping to literally put his head down on the table and take a 15-minute power nap, only to get right back up and get back into the game. And so all night, he's just on this game. By a little after noon on February 1st, Chen had been gaming nearly non-stop for 14 hours, which was long even by his standards. But he couldn't stop now. He was exhausted, but he was doing great. This is like one of the best sessions he had ever had. And right at that moment, he was in the middle of this really intense match where his team was about to get knocked out by this really good opponent. And if Chen could just lock in, they could pull out a win. And so Chen was super focused, leaned forward, hands flying across his keyboard and mouse, and he managed to dodge an attack, and then he geared up for the big strike. And right as he did, something went wrong. About 9 hours later, around 9 p.m., the cashier at this internet cafe had just finished giving another soda to one of the customers, and then they looked out and she noticed there was nobody else in line. Now, the job of this cashier was not just to check people in and give them snacks and drinks. It was also to keep the cafe clean and also, critically, to periodically make rounds and kick people out once their time had expired. Because oftentimes, a lot of these gamers would get sucked into their games, lose track of time, and basically end up playing for longer than they had actually paid for. So the cashier grabbed her clipboard with all the information about each of the customers and how long they had paid for, and then she began making her rounds in the back. And part of it was she needed to speak basically to all the people that were there and kind of confirm that they were supposed to be here still. But as she walked into the back, per usual, nobody looked up at her. I mean, all these people at all their terminals were heads down, fully focused on their game. I mean, completely immersed. And so she began going, one person to the next, being like, hey, are you good? Did you pay for your time? Are you going to be here any bit longer? And a lot of these guys, they'd finally look up and be totally shocked she's even standing next to them because they weren't paying attention at all. But, one by one, she checked each of the monitors, and eventually she got to Chen. And when she got to Chen, Chen was focused on this game entirely to the point where when she said, hey, your time is up. You've been here for 24 hours. You paid for, 8 or 9 or whatever it was. Chen didn't even look up at her. I mean, nothing she could do could get Chen to even acknowledge her. He was so focused on the game. And so eventually the cashier, out of frustration, was like, hey, and she kind of tapped his shoulder, and Chen leaned back. And when he did, and the cashier got a good look at him, she screamed. It would turn out, until this very moment, Chen had gotten his wish. He had come to this cafe 24 hours earlier and been totally left alone. He got to exclusively just play his game in his own world. In fact, the whole time he was here, no one had even looked at him. Because if they had, they would have seen something was horribly wrong. It was the cashier who walked over to him and tapped on his shoulder who noticed what was wrong. Here's what the cashier saw.
Wow.
This is a picture of Chen.
Oh, rigor mortis has already kicked in, bro.
That is crazy.
He is stiff in the same position that he was. No. That's the mouse hand. And this the tap. And his hands are. Wow.
Chen is in full rigor mortis. Because 9 hours earlier, when he was in the middle of that really intense fight with that opponent who was about to beat Chen and his team, Chen, he got really excited and he was about to land that big strike that potentially could have been the blow that would have won the match. Well, he was so amped up that Chen had a heart attack and died. And for the 9 hours after he died, when he was still in the same position he was in playing the game, nobody noticed. He just sat there appearing to be fully alive, locked into the game like everybody else, but he was actually dead. And so it wasn't until the cashier tapped Chen on the shoulder and he rocked backwards, still in his gaming position, but because he's in rigor mortis, his hands kind of jutted out in front of him up into the air, that she realized he was actually dead. Chen's family would later say that he had pre-existing heart issues that very likely contributed to his fatal heart attack.
Oh, wow.
He was probably too excited from his game.
Right.
And then
So
also
lack of sleep.
drinking, not eating healthy. So he probably snacking, eating unhealthy drinks. Not as unhealthy as in America because, different. But still, you know what I'm saying? Because some people do like energy drinks or sugary drinks to
like
keep them up at
keep
night.
them up or something like
Yeah,
that.
it's like caffeinated, you know what I'm saying?
And then
I don't know.
of having the, health issues.
Yeah.
And then just being overly excited.
Especially when he had the opportunity to get that kill.
I know, right?
He's like, oh, I gotta get.
Yeah, that's sad.
He probably didn't make a noise or anything. But everybody be so locked in, even if he did make a noise or anything, nobody is paying him no attention.
30 years old. That's young, bro.
Damn, that's insane.
Wow.
R.P.,
R.P.
bro.
to Chan.
He went out doing something he loved, though. I will give him to that, but
I guess that's the, optimistic way.
still sad.
Try to
as
look
fuck.
at it, but it's sad.
R.P., man.
On the afternoon of October 11th, 2023, a 48-year-old man named Samuel Gomez stood in the lobby of the Moxie Hotel in Portland, Oregon, talking to the concierge. Samuel had flown in from Phoenix earlier that morning because he was speaking at a conference in Portland later that week. But for now, he was just gonna go out and enjoy the sights, and so he had asked the concierge to give him some local recommendations. The concierge named a few cool local places, Samuel thanked him, and then he headed out the front door onto the road. And as soon as Samuel was outside, he immediately heard this loud commotion happening right down the street. And he turned and looked in the direction, and he saw this kind of gaggle of people and cars sort of standing in what looked like a big circle around whatever was happening over there. Samuel couldn't tell what it was, but people were honking and people had their phones out filming sort of whatever was in the middle of the circle. And from the looks of it, it appeared there was at least one police officer in his car sort of beginning to marshal the scene and block traffic. But, there was just this chaotic scene happening, and Samuel really had no idea what it was. But naturally, being a human, he was interested. He wanted to see what was going on. And so Samuel began walking down the road, and as he did, he pulled out his phone, opened up his camera, and began filming and taking pictures. And as he got closer to whatever was going on here, the cacophony of horns and people yelling and all the chaos just got louder and louder, and it still wasn't clear at all to Samuel what the heck this even was. And so he just continued to take photos and just kind of be an onlooker. And at some point, when Samuel got right up close and actually was standing right near that police officer blocking traffic, he happened to turn his phone and aim his camera at the police officer. And when he did, he took a photo. Here is the photo he took. As you can see, the police officer is aiming his gun directly at Samuel. And that's because this is not a police officer. Samuel just thought he was a police officer.
What in the actual?
And honestly, even the vehicle he's driving is not, even like an undercover car. I don't think you never know. Because I've seen them in trucks. I've seen them and when I mean undercover, I mean not necessarily 100% undercover, like a plainclothes car that actually is fixed with lights and everything. I've seen trucks, I've seen Infinities and stuff, but I've never seen but this is a Mercedes. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But that's insane. I turn, and you literally got a gun pointed at me, and you dressed as a cop.
Am I the target, or it's just random?
Could be random. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because this is not a police officer. Samuel just thought he was a police officer. When he looked down the road at this crazy scene, he saw this guy in a car who sort of appeared to be, maybe an undercover cop, sort of, in the right place at the right time, taking charge and handling whatever this was. When in reality, this man who's in this photo is a guy named Jeffrey Hammond, who had just been involved in a road rage incident, and he shot and killed a 47-year-old man named Ryan Martin. That was the scene that
Hold on, I gotta get this name.
And killed a 47-year-old man named Ryan Martin. That was the scene that Samuel had walked out to. Jeffrey Hammond shooting and killing Ryan Martin. That's what everybody was reacting to.
Wow.
And so as Samuel walked down the road, not knowing that, he inadvertently stood right in front of the shooter, who was still sort of crazed, aimed his camera at him, right as Jeffrey Hammond swung his gun around and shot Samuel.
Wow.
So literally seconds after this photo was taken, Samuel got shot. Luckily though, Samuel would survive the shooting. As for Jeffrey Hammond, he was arrested and charged with murder. And as far as we know, he is currently in jail awaiting trial.
What the actual fuck?
Right?
And that's the
road rage, bro.
That's the problem.
Ain't never that serious.
That's one of the biggest problems we have in our society is people feel like they're deemed to put any type of justice in their own hand. a lot of people feel like I can do what, feel very untouchable, feel very like I'm in the right type of individuals, and I'm like, a lot of y'all like
That's sad. Rest in peace to
too much
Ryan.
entitlement.
Yeah.
Too much entitlement. I ain't do nothing wrong. I can do whatever.
Yep.
Feel so untouchable. Feel like the law is not doesn't pertain to them, and like because I've been in road rage situations, not like that though. And I ain't gonna get it. It's just fucked up, bro. RP, you said RP to Ryan?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because 9 times out of 10, whatever happened didn't have to happen. Yeah. And I'm glad Samuel was able to survive the bullshit because he wasn't even involved.
Right.
He was just an innocent bystander, just so happened to be recording. And I guess that's the reason why he shot him, because he like, you recorded me.
You recorded me, yeah.
But he don't even know what I'm recording. I'm literally just pointing. I'm thinking you finna come save the day.
Crazy.
Damn.
On April 5th, 2018, a young man named Luis Hernandez sat inside of a small stone shack with a metal roof on a rural property in northern Venezuela. Luis was a painter, and for the last year or so, this shack had doubled as both his home and his art studio. And it was basically always a mess. There was dirty dishes and food everywhere, and all his paint supplies were scattered all over the ground. But the walls were all adorned with all of his beautiful and most prized possessions, his artwork. He mainly painted really dramatic-looking portraits in very bold colors. In fact, when he was actually doing his painting, when he was in the middle of the floor, right in the center of his shack, on one wall, there was this face of a man he had done, all in red, and then on the left, on the other wall, was this woman's face, all in blue, but with bright red lips. And these paintings were both so intense that at times, as he
I'm looking at certain things with the pictures, with the paintings. I wonder, are there like specified indications on the pictures? I mean, not pictures, paintings. Yeah. I'm just saying pictures because I'm like seeing a picture. But are you seeing what I'm seeing?
Like the looks.
Yeah. I wonder, is that there like, for a reason, or is just because of the door?
Yeah, just like, yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
That's what I was thinking, just whatever the canvas or whatever he's painting or whatever.
Because there's such an oddly places that can indicate something. I don't know.
He had done, all in red. And then on the left, on the other wall, was this woman's face, all in blue, but with bright red lips. And these paintings were both so intense that at times, as he was doing his work, it sort of felt like they were both looking at him. But on this particular day, as Luis sat in the middle of his shack working on his latest project, he put that weird thought out of his mind that, his paintings were watching him and just focused instead on getting this done. He had one more beautiful portrait he was working on, and he took his paintbrush and he dipped it in the black ink and he put the finishing touches on it. And when this portrait was done, Luis kind of sat back and took it all in, and he couldn't help but feel a bit emotional because this project, it was different than any other he had ever done. He wasn't doing it for fun. He wasn't doing it for pay. He was doing it as a way to cope with a big crisis in his life. So this shack where Luis worked and lived, and also the rural property that it sat on, belonged to Luis's boyfriend, Lisandro Rosales Garcia. Lisandro and Luis had met about a year earlier when Luis was really down on his luck and was actually homeless, living out on the streets. But Lisandro had seen Luis and offered to let him come live in this shack on his property, which was out in the middle of nowhere. And Luis, who's got no other options, is like, awesome, yes, I'd love to do that. And so he moves out into the shack, and pretty quickly after moving in, Luis and Lisandro, they formed a more romantic relationship, and Luis was so happy. He felt like Lisandro was the one person who really understood him and truly supported his art. But then, about 2 months ago, Lisandro had just gone missing. The police were looking into it, but so far, Luis had not gotten any updates. And so Luis was handling this huge gap in his life now, the only way he knew how to, which was with his art. And so this latest project he had just finished was sort of like a tribute to his missing boyfriend. But as Luis put his brush down and stood up to admire his work, he suddenly heard voices from outside. Now, this was highly unusual because this property really was very remote. I mean, the only time Luis or Lisandro would see people here was if they invited them, and Luis had not invited anyone. But before Luis could even react to, these strangers on his property, those people outside began pounding on Luis's front door. And so Luis, he opened up the door, and standing there were all these police officers. And Luis's first reaction was, oh, they must be here to give me some updates about Lisandro's disappearance. But these police officers, they didn't give an update. Instead, they just pushed past Luis into the art studio and began scooping up all his paints and paintbrushes. And then at some point, one of the officers actually looked down and saw the final project that Luis had been working on, his tribute to his missing boyfriend. And when the officer saw that painting, he turned around, ran outside, and vomited. Here is a picture of that tribute. Now, at first,
because I'm looking for the face, and this is the face. And it's looking down up on a garden. Right?
Mm-hmm.
As if it's paying its respect. What you get from it?
Yeah, and then I also, in my head, because, we've heard, like, when people, like, painting with, say, for instance, not saying that this is the case, but, like, for instance, like, blood or whatever the case may be, like, using that to, like, paint or whatever. That's what I thought at first in the beginning. I was like, is he, like, using, like, with the, because him pointing out the red lips and the red, I don't know, it just kind of made me think of that. But then I was like, well, maybe let me not jump to conclusions.
Good point.
Because it could be something totally different. Because I see what you're saying, which
I was indicating like the black spots, and I was like, is that what was the cause of death? How he killed the person? Like it's a gunshot wound to the head, like 2 gunshot wounds to the head, or 1 gunshot wound to the face, but also within the blood.
Yeah,
I see what you mean though, because both portraits have a lot of red.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, I agree.
Well, all 3 portraits. This portrait, the other one, red lips, and then the black man is a bunch of red.
First glance, this piece of art is totally unremarkable. It appears to be some sort of stained glass with green leaves and some blue and red flowers. But when you consider the types of supplies that Luis used to make this particular piece of art, you'll realize how horrifying this image actually is, and it's what caused that officer to vomit. It would turn out Luis was not just a painter. He was also a serial killer. And what he would do is after he killed his victims, he would use their blood, their ashes, and their other body parts to paint all of his paintings. Now, at first, Luis and Lisandro were actually a happy couple. However, at some point in February of 2018, they got into some kind of fight, and Luis killed Lisandro and quickly began using his body parts to create this tribute to his boyfriend. If you look again at the tribute painting, all the red that is used is Lisandro's blood, and all the black that's used is Lisandro's ashes. All told, police would find the remains of at least 6 people on that property.
Shut up.
They also found evidence that Luis was not just using their body parts to make art, he was also cannibalizing his victims. Luis was arrested and made a full confession. As far as we know, he is currently incarcerated in Venezuela.
Oh, child.
Look at him.
Look crazy.
He looked deranged.
Crazy eyes, child.
He looks like a sick, deranged individual.
Said.
What the?
My goodness.
You spot on.
I with the blood for sure, but what?
I was just looking at it as a possibility
ashes,
of
the other body
like evidence of truth telling within the art, which it is truth telling within the art.
True. And you are taking in, you're eating.
I ain't want to go that deep.
And they found 6. Well, he said 6 other. Whew.
That's insane. That's insane. See, I couldn't fathom.
Wow. Okay. I wasn't expecting all of that.
No,
I was like,
not
okay,
at all.
because he pointed out I was okay. I kind of maybe this is where we're going. Yeah, I wasn't expecting all that.
I don't think none of us was.
No.
Not at all.
And
Hey,
I want. Well,
you
never
said
mind.
no,
I just
go
wonder
ahead.
how long he actually. I don't know if it was mentioned, like how actually long he had been deceased, and when did he do the other?
Also, so he said he did
He
say
did say,
he said on February I want to say it was February
oh, okay,
28th of 2018 they got into an argument
oh, okay,
and it
okay,
led
that's
up to
right, that's
whatever
right. My
and
bad.
then so from basically for a month he got away with the
My
murder.
bad. Yeah.
A
Okay.
little over a month he got away with the murder, which is
Okay.
insane
That's
though.
insane. Yep.
Which gave you enough time where you can be able to
Do all of this.
drain the blood from the body, eat some of the meat of the body, and burn the body to ashes to be able to utilize that too.
Right.
And the paint is so pure, like pure red, which is crazy in itself. I'm like, how you get the blood to be that bold of a red as far as that paint? But I'm sure he uses
Use other stuff.
like other
and-
things
yeah.
to make sure it's that strong of a red color. But it's insane, bro.
Yeah, most definitely. Okay, y'all.
Hey man, y'all spam us up in the comments, man. The evidence was there.
Everything.
That's what's crazy, man. Y'all spam us up. Y'all let us know y'all thoughts and opinions about it for us in the comment section down below. But until next time, y'all know how it go, man. I do go by the name DJ New Kid. This is
Sierra Nicole.
We Are.
Kid and C.
We out.
Go and get it, ain't no time to kick it. Got a stack of flip for my foes. Dollar, 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 dollar.